The goals are that we are going to look at solving problems with money and decimals, and we're going to use variables in our expressions and our equations. And we will look at the distributive property and the order of operation while solving these expressions. And we'll find a value that makes an equation true, in other words, solving for our variable. So on this, week, specifically on this lesson 10.1, it's called the pizza place lesson, is what we used to always refer to it as. And we're looking at this menu here that sells pizza by the slice and sells drinks. These are healthy food choices. I just want to let you all know that in case if you're curious, because we had to be aware of that when we wrote it, that we only had healthy food choices. So notice it doesn't say sodas, because those would be unhealthy. So just that's my side note from my days of having to get this approved. So on the pizza slices, we have cheese, we have pepperoni, we have deluxe. And on our drinks, we have small, medium, large, and extra large. And what we need to do is we need to assign variables to our different cost of our different items. And what you want to make sure is that your variable needs to stand for a number or a value, that your variable does not just stand for a pizza, that it has to stand for the number or the value for the cost of the pizza. So we're going to start with our different pizzas. Our first one was cheese. So what do you think would be a good variable to use for the cost of a cheese pizza? I know the variables are already defined on the menu, but this is actually something that the kids have to fill out on theirs on the page before. Catherine says C. Very well. I think C is very good also, a good choice. So we're going to use C, be the cost of a cheese pizza. The next one that we have is the pepperoni pizza. And so what do you think we should represent as the natural choice for the cost of a pepperoni slice? P. Very good. Our next one is a deluxe slice. So what do you think the cost of a deluxe slice? D. Oh, you guys are so good. Okay. Now we move on to our drinks. We have a small drink. So what would be our cost of a small drink? S, very good. And then we have a medium drink, which we might want to represent using M. And then we have, Shelley, did you want to talk? I thought Shelley wanted to talk, sorry, because I was hearing feedback, which meant somebody else's microphone was on. Now, when we get to large, there's a slight issue because right now we're using the first letter of everything, C, P, D, S, M. But if we use a lowercase l could sometimes be misrepresented to either be a 1 in most cases or an I. And we want to make sure that the students understand that it's representing the cost of something. So in this case, what could we use so that they don't look alike? So that and lowercase l is not misconstrued for the number 1. Very good, an uppercase L. So we're going to use an uppercase L for a large drink. And then the last thing we have is an extra large drink. And most students are usually familiar on like t-shirts or clothing items that if it's extra large, it says XL. And when we have a variable, we want to use just one variable. So, oh, the S looks like a 5. It could be misconstrued for a 5. I see somebody saying grande. That's a good choice too. Yes, Susan. S looks like a 5, I agree. You like grande, which you could definitely use. That would definitely work. But we're going to use an X for the extra large just to keep it. Grande wouldn't be bad if you want the kids to change the size of it. It's already written to be large, but you could definitely adjust that in yours and put a G like we showed on the side. Right. Grande is a suggestion for large. Does grande mean small at Starbucks? I think grande is a medium one at Starbucks. It's tall, grande, venti. And don't ask me why I know all those things. So, so we could, though, use the G if we want to, and a lot of our second language learners might be more familiar with that. So now we've established what variables we want to use in order to represent the cost of our different items. Yes, Shelley?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that this might seem like a pretty obvious, easy activity for the kids, and I think it's important that we use natural letters. So like, for example, D is the cost of a deluxe pizza. But one of the things that's really important, I think, is that the kids understand that D has to stand for the cost of something. So D cannot stand for drink, because drink is not a cost. Drink is a thing. And then we all had that conversation about choosing letters that are less likely to get confused on when they write them. So using a capital L or a G and stuff like that is really important. And in the teacher guide, there's a lot of background information and questioning strategies that will help you to make sure that students understand that the variable has to stand for a number.
Thank you, Shelley. Yes, and I was going to point out in the teacher guide on TP5, it goes over sense-making variables to use for this activity, but then on TP6, it actually, there is a chart of how certain letters could be misconstrued for numbers or mistaken for different things, such as the S for a 5, or the B for a 6, or a G for a 9. So there are different ways, and then that way it does, that is in your teacher guide on page 5 and page 6. So I just wanted to let you know that in week 10. All right, moving forward, now that we've established our variables for the cost of our different items, we move forward, and actually I'm skipping 2 pages because in your book you would then have some variables that you give your students, and they will fill out, like you'll say, what is the cost of a cheese plus the cost of the pepperoni, and they'd have to write the equation and or the expression and then to solve it. So we're going to skip that part though and actually go on to what would be page 5 in the student pages. And in this, as Helen had pointed out, the variables were already given. And yes, they were. It's just that I was on an earlier page and this is a further one. So we did put the variables in here so that the students have them available on the page that they're working on. So let's look at problem 1. We have an equation here because we have an equal sign, and we have to find out what the cost of a pepperoni pizza is plus something which needs to equal the cost of 3 cheese pizzas, and so, or cheese slices. So who could tell me what would be their first step in solving this problem? What would be your first step? Write down P and value of 3C, okay? Put the value of the variables, so same thing Susan said basically. And who could tell me what is the value of P? $125, right? And we see that right over here on our chart, okay? So the value of P would be 125. Joe, can you help me out with that one? And then somebody said put in the value of 3C. What would the value of 3C be? So the value of 3C would be 3 times $1 or $3, right? So now we have to figure out what's missing and solve this for what is missing. What do you think would be our next step in that? How would we find the cost of our unknown item? I see lots of people writing. Subtract $1.25 from $3. Subtract 125 from 3. Subtract 125 from each side. Perfect. So Charlie is wording it as keeping our balance equal, because I used to always want my students to do that as well. Remember that students have not yet learned about sign equations. Right. Right. So a lot of kids might actually, of course, most kids are familiar. Oops, somebody wrote a long thing in there. Sorry, Helen, I missed part of it. Okay. So, so exactly, they have not learned how to solve equations yet, but most students with money, if they know they already have $1.25 and they need $3, could figure out how to do that, even if they don't know in their head naturally that they're subtracting $1.25 from 3. So what is the unknown item? What is the value or the cost of the unknown item? $1.75, right? What if students just want to add some value to 125 to get 3? That would be fine too. That would be basically a form of guess and check, which would work as well, Susan. So what item do we have that would cost $1.75? D, right. D, which is our deluxe slice. So then the students under menu item would write deluxe slice, and the cost of the menu item is $1.75. So, right, it's exactly like making change or counting up. And like I said, most students are pretty quick when it comes to money, at least, and would know if that worked out well or not. So on your own right now, I'd like you to try to solve 3. And when you think that you know what is the missing item, raise your hand and let me know when you think you've discovered what the missing item is for 3. See, Susan says D, which is deluxe pizza, the deluxe slice. Charlie says deluxe pizza also. Shelley says, okay. Well, I'm waiting for people to put their answers in the chat window. Very good. So most of us said D. Who could raise their hand and tell me how they solved for D, or how they solved for the unknown? Yes, Susan. Susan's typing, I see. Sorry, forgot to hit my mic. Hold on, I have to now go back up, see how short my term memory is. I subtracted 225 from 240. So I'm just curious, because 2M shows that we have the cost of 2 medium drinks, which would be 240. And then we have a large drink, which is 160. And then on the other side, so we have this together would actually make $4 on this side. Because if we add those together, we would get $4. And then we have the cost of our pepperoni, which is $1.25, plus our cost of our cheese, which is $1. So this side would give us then $2.25. So I'm just curious on Susan's, because you said subtract 225 from 240. I see where you might have gotten 225. I'm not sure where you got the 240, because I have this 160. So I'm just a little unclear on that. Since they're closed in value, then I added 160 to it. Oh, okay. I didn't combine two. Okay, because you're an adult learner and you know you could do that. Very good. So our missing item, or our menu item, is a deluxe slice once again, and the cost once again is $1.75. So very good. Thank you, Susan. Did anybody else solve it differently who'd like to share? I see Charlie's typing up something. Okay, right, which was kind of the path that we were going on when you add up the left side of the equation and then the right side and subtract it. Perfect. All right, we're going to look at one more problem, and this is actually on the next page of your student packet, which would be SP6, and I just took one of the problems off the bottom. And now we have 5 small drinks plus something has to be equal to 2 something plus 2 deluxe pizza slices. So what we need to do is find the one menu item that is going to fit in this. So if you would like to work on that one, and raise your hand when you think you've got it, or put it in the chat box when you think you've got it. As Shelley suggested, see if you could do this using techniques that don't involve regular equation solving. Yes, students could definitely guess and check these items. I don't think we'd want to discourage just guess and checking at this point. I think a lot of kids, it's a natural way for them to look at it or at least hone in on it. Helen, just to let you know, so things like P plus C equals something plus C, problems like that might be helpful. Prior to this, like I said, I skipped to page 5 and 6. Prior to it on pages 3 and 4, there were problems where the teacher would give them, like, P, what is the cost of P, or what is the value of P plus C? And the students had to solve that. And so there were ones leading in that were a guided lesson. I just skipped those and went into more of the equation solving for this lesson, but those are built into there. Susan, P, which P represents our pepperoni slice, or the value of our pepperoni slice. As Shelley pointed out, feel free to make up your own scaffolding if needed, because equation solving doesn't show up for 2 more weeks. But a lot of these, because of the numbers used and the values, kids can guess and check and at least hone in on many of these. So pepperoni, does everyone agree? If you agree that it's a pepperoni slice, put a happy face. If you don't, put a wiggly face, and we'll see what we can figure out. Okay, it seems like most of us agree that it is a slice of a pepperoni. And that would indeed be true, because 5 small drinks plus a pepperoni is equal in value to the cost of 2 pepperoni slices plus 2 deluxe slices. And if you actually did the pencil pushing on the numbers, you would figure that out. Right. This is the first time that some of the students might be seeing the number next to a variable like this, which means multiplication, and hence when they see the 2 next to this empty box, they may not be naturally aware that this is to mean multiplication also. And that's one of the concerns for some people about using X for extra large, is because for many students still X has a meaning of multiply and not of a variable. And so some teachers actually, or some people, choose not to use the X there because they think it's too confusing with the multiplication sign. So just something to keep in mind there. But yes, definitely remind them that that does mean multiplication. Do you think they could do this without variables? It's sometimes difficult to subtract 1 box from 2 boxes. Yeah, like Shelley said, I think you could scaffold it in. On the prior pages, you would see, like I said, I skipped 2 of the pages. It leads them in very nicely into, here, I'm actually trying to find I had it written down, into like illustrating what a variable must stand for, a number. It illustrates multiplication. There is one problem on a previous page on 2 and 3 which says like 4p, which would represent the cost of 4 pepperoni slices. There's one that does order of operation, so that you know, like if you have 3p plus 2d, you have to do the multiplication first before you could add them together. And then one that actually does the distributive property. So in the prior pages to this, there are problems that you will be working with your students that gives them understanding to these other problems that we've been doing. So just to let you know that that is in there and that is built into there. So that is where that stands. To let you know, after this lesson, or not after, but so once you work through verbally with your kids doing more of a directed lesson with numbers and such, there is a part prior to actually starting these pages that we did where your students on an index card or on a sheet actually write up their own problems for the pizza place on page SP4, where they pick their own menu items and they solve them and write expressions and equations and then solve them and such. So, and then as a follow-up, there is a part where you could bring in menus from neighboring restaurants and such and have them devise their own equations off of those menus and write them on index cards and share them with students. So it does go further than this also. Are there any questions? Because I kind of skipped around a bit. Has anyone actually hit this lesson before or yet? Week 10? No, Susan has not. Just last year. Okay. And are there any words of wisdom, Tony or Catherine, on any sticking points from last year that you remember? Oh, Charlie, you're coming up on it. So Tony or Catherine, do you have anything to add on what might be helpful or useful? While Catherine is typing, so this is the week 10, the pizza place problem, and the main thing that we want kids to understand is that they're going to start using variables. Variables represent a value or a cost, not an actual thing. Like Shelley said, some kids want to choose D for drinks. Well, drinks doesn't provide the value or the cost. So that they get familiar doing that. They will review some order of operations, such as we had to solve the 5S and the 2D in order to move on with our problem and such. But true equation solving will not be for a couple more weeks. Yes. So Catherine said that her kids liked it because they could relate to it with buying food for their lunches and such, so they were good at it. Right, and we did choose the context because this, pizza and drinks, the kids pretty much get about buying a slice of pizza and a drink. So that is why we chose that. So that's it for our lesson. Unless you have any questions, feel free to stay on if you do, or any just general questions. It doesn't have to be about this lesson. It could just be general questions. But thank you for coming, and I appreciate you being with us today. And hopefully you will be with us next week as well. And our quote for today is, knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. And that's from Joanne Wolfgang von Goethe. So thank you all for coming. Oh, thank you, Shelley, for the clapping. Yes, Charlie. Thank you, everyone, for your words of thanks. Charlie, did you have a question? Because I saw you raise your hand. Or did you mean to hit the clapping hand? That's fine. Thank you all for coming and have a great day. Hope to see you next week. I will be the one on next Tuesday as well.